Hey, what's up, Giants fans? Welcome to another episode of Giants Talk. I'm Cole Kuiper here with Giants insider Alex Pavlovic. On today's episode, we are talking baseball playoffs. We're fielding mailbag questions. We've got some updates to the world of managing around baseball that could impact the Giants search, and most importantly, Duane Kuiper is joining Giants Talk. Always good to welcome Kuiper on. Before we get started, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. Tariff-free savings are happening right now at Mancini's Sleep World. Get 40% off top brand mattresses like Sealy and Beauty Rest. Mancini's has over 3,800 tariff-free mattresses available for free next day delivery, plus 0% APR for 60 months on select mattresses. Shop sleepworld.com. All right, Alex, let's start with some quick updates. We have no Giants updates for managers, unfortunately. I'm sure you listeners would hear an emergency podcast if that was the case. But uh, Kai Correa, how about that one? Old friend Kai Correa heading to New York as a bench coach. I already saw social media simmering that this was Stephen Vogt dismantling his coaching team because he was going to leave for San Francisco. So once again, that is not happening. But good to see Kai Correa get a promotion and head to the Big Apple.
Yeah, the Stephen Vogt stuff on, I guess you're not on Twitter anymore, but
Oh,
the
it's everywhere. It's
the
everywhere.
yeah, they know who they are. There's some weird stuff. Anyway, I've always liked Kai. I mean, part of my thing we've talked about it a lot here is like I think the Giants need a few people like that. It doesn't have to be your manager necessarily, but a
Mhm.
few people on staff who are just obsessive. If you're a Mets fan or a Mets writer and want to get to know Kai, I think he was on here like 3 years ago and talking about
Yep.
like watching videos in the shower to just not waste a single second of his day. He's just one of those people. I'm not one of those people, but I think having a few of those on staff for the Giants would be helpful. And interim Giants manager Kai Correa. So I've
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. When you go through the list of Giants managers, Kai Correa's got to be on there.
and also I thought just from a media standpoint, like I thought he was great those 3 days that
Mhm.
he was the guy we were talking to. So he's I think one day he will get that opportunity. Um, I'm happy for him. I always like Kai. I think he did a great job here.
Yeah. Other managerial update: Padres manager Mike Schultz retired. What is that? Does that impact the Giants search at all, Alex? Just with more candidates coming off the board, or is this one of those situations where they've got a guy waiting in the wings?
I mean, a little. I think, technically Nick Hundley lives in San Diego, so but I don't think that would, I don't think Nick would take that. I don't know. You never know, but I
Yeah.
think if he's gotten into the process with the Giants, I think if he took a managerial job, it would be with Buster Posey. Is
Mhm.
That would be my guess, but it does. Any of these will impact the Giants in that it is what currently 8 teams. I lose track. 8 or 9 teams looking for a
It's a
manager.
lot of teams.
So yeah, if it's not Nick here and it's been a while, we talked to Duane about this coming up. Um, there are other guys who are going to be on your list who are probably going to get interviews elsewhere and
Mhm.
potentially have opportunities elsewhere. And I think the other thing is, new managers mean new coaching staffs. So some of these talented coaches, um, you want some of those guys as well. So it might have a small impact just in the talent pool you're looking at. And I would say just from a division standpoint, it's similar to when we talked about the Rockies. Like I think Schilt did a fine job by all accounts, but did not get that talented team over the top. So curious to see who they hire and whether it's someone who can do what Pat Murphy has done and do what Stephen Vogt has done and get that team to the next level. Similar to the Rockies thing, like can somebody make them a real team? So
Yeah.
teams in the division we watch closely.
I mean, the Padres team has so consistently underperformed with what they've put together as like
Yeah.
an awesome roster. So you're right. One hyper competent managerial decision down there, some fresh blood could make them a scary threat in the
Yeah.
West for a long time.
I would also say it's, a couple guys in a row now who have not been able to get them over the
That's
top.
true.
And it's probably at this point more about their stars going like 1 for 18 in a playoff series. But yeah, that's one I think we're going to talk about here and watch closely just because that is a team. the Dodgers are the Dodgers. That is a team directly in front of the Giants that they need to chase down next year.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Before we moved on to taking a look at the current MLB playoff landscape, we got some Gold Glove nominations to celebrate. Do we celebrate that? Is that even like high enough on the register to celebrate, or do we wait till the actual glove?
Well, October 15th, when there's not much going on and we're waiting on a manager, I was happy to at least have something to write about.
There we go.
And
I like
I do,
that.
I do think it was noteworthy today because Logan is a finalist, which is
Yes.
interesting, and he finally figured out how to hold runners better. He had one error in 207 innings. He fields his position well, and just for me, it goes back to like a cool thing for a guy who has been um, one of the top ground ball guys in the game for several years, and decided this year he wanted to strike people out and just, all right, I'll lead the league in strikeouts. Has been trying to improve his defense for a long time, and now he's a Gold Glove finalist. So it's cool. It's a guy who continues to get better, and you know, Patrick Bailey's certainly going to win. I think Patrick should win the Platinum
Mhm.
Glove. Like you look at some of the overarching defensive metrics, and he's not even. I would tell people like people who are angry about Patrick in general, the ones who we hear from who go, yeah, I wish he could hit. Like go to Baseball Savant and pull up some of the framing stuff. He's not even like in the same category. Is that
Yes.
he's like statistically lapping the field multiple times in some of these things. And then the notable thing I think was Matt Chapman not a finalist, which I thought he'd be a finalist. I knew he wasn't going to win because he missed a lot of games this year. Brian Hayes had a really good defensive year. He's a former Gold Glove winner himself, so he's going to win that. But I think you look at Chapman missing about 30 something games, and then Ryan McMahon's a finalist, and he spent the final 2 months in the American League because he got traded to the Yankees. So
Yeah.
that one surprised me a little bit, but I don't think you get any, it doesn't go on your baseball reference page, finalist. So
Yeah.
he wasn't going to win this year. So I think people may be a little surprised, but the missed games for him are an issue.
Well, the two nominees the Giants got are both very exciting. Webb, I mean, sheer quantity alone, he's up there throwing the most innings in the NL. So pretty cool that with that many opportunities to, I don't know, to flub balls, I guess is what I'm trying to say. He's still up there on top. And then Bailey's at the point as a Giant where it's just expected. It's kind of weird that this is just going to be back to back
Yeah.
Gold Gloves because it feels like he should be winning them. He should be doing like a Yadi Molina kind of thing.
Well, it's three finalist years for him in 3 years, and
There we
gonna
go.
win a second. Gonna be the first Giants catcher to win two. So he's uh
Yeah.
he's putting together a pretty nice resume there defensively.
Yeah. All right. Let's check out baseball playoffs. As a caveat, Alex and I are recording this Wednesday afternoon, so we are missing one of the AL games. But just before we dive into this, would like to remind listeners that last round, Alex and I made World Series predictions, and we're both still alive. Alex said Dodgers, Blue Jays. I said Mariners, Brewers. It certainly seems like it's shaping up to be a combination of that. But let's start with Dodgers, Brewers, Alex, because I had high hopes that the Brewers, who swept the Dodgers during the regular season, could put up a fight, and they are just steamrolling the Brewers.
Yeah, turns out having what is it, $500 million worth of pitchers go out
Yeah.
there the first two games. I think the thing that stings for the Giants is not only watching the Dodgers do this, but Blake Snell was here. Uh,
Hmm.
Blake could have been here. Like they really had no interest in bringing him back. That was a different front office, but like could have brought him back. Could have been in that bidding war. Um, and then Yamamoto, they really wanted and went after
Yeah.
really hard. So those are two guys that could have been Giants in a different timeline. Uh,
Oh, are you telling me Shohei Ohtani wasn't almost a Giant?
Shohei could have been a Giant. Yeah, those are, but the Snell one in particular, I mean, he was a Giant and he was awesome for, like, he was as good as I've ever seen. So I'm watching these playoff games and I'm just like not surprised at all because this is what we saw once he got healthy in San Francisco. And
Hmm.
I think he probably was pretty happy with the way everything ended up, but the Giants could have been if they wanted to be involved there at the beginning and just be like it's going to be Blake Snell and Logan Webb going forward.
Yeah, I seem to remember very few fans clamoring for a continued Blake Snell reunion after
Yeah,
how he performed, showed up so unready at the start, sitting out the final game. Um, I don't know. I see Blake Snell on the mound for the Dodgers, and it's like this is the perfect situation for him to
it
be
is.
in. He doesn't have to be the star of the team, getting mics put in his face after every game. He just kind of plays video games, pitch baseball, and live his life.
Yeah, this is
I
not Kevin
can't I
Gausman.
can't imagine him as a long-term Giant.
Yeah, Gausman was the one who people wanted more. I will say I always found Blake fascinating because I think he just basically told you exactly what the real deal was. Like,
Yeah.
I'm being very protective because I want a massive contract. And I
Yeah.
found a quote from the final time he talked to us. Uh, here's what he said his final time. He said he would pitch more after signing his big deal. And he said, all I want to do is pitch. It sucks too, just because I have to be smart, and that's where I am right now. But once I sign that deal, it's just pitching, pitching, pitching. I love doing that. That's all I truly care about. And he was very transparent. I am trying to get
Yeah.
to free agency and get that
Hmm.
monster contract. And I kind of respect that. And he's gone out since then. And I know he was injured this year, but he's pitched a lot in the postseason. He's pitched a lot the last month too, as they were trying to wrap up the division. And he's all of a sudden getting deeper into games. So he kind of called his shot. And
Yeah.
he's someone who's very, yeah, he does what Blake needs to do. But I think one place where you can be selfish is as a starting pitcher because you can go out there and take over the entire game. And so yeah, I think that's maybe one reason Giants fans were very down on it was the way it ended here and the fact that he didn't pitch at the end of the year. Um, and was very open about everything. But in retrospect, it was like, yeah, he called his shot. He said this is what he was going to do.
You do have to appreciate that level of earnestness from an MLB quote. It's almost like a Zach Greinke quote where it's like, yeah, I don't know what else I expected. I
Yeah.
guess you do you, man.
It's like, yeah, no, I'm trying to get paid and I'm trying not to get hurt here for a game that doesn't matter at all to my career. So,
Exactly.
like, yeah, I guess that's totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see if the Brewers manage to pull out anything here. But as the series heads to Los Angeles, and as the Dodgers just continue having ace after ace after ace, including out of the bullpen, this seems like a team that is just built to dominate the playoffs.
And Shohei like doesn't have a hit yet, so they're doing all this without their best player.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Looking at the other league, currently at the time of us recording this, Mariners are up 2-0. This series is surprising to me because I had I'm obviously pulling for the Mariners. Mariners are currently my favorite team to win it all, but I thought it would be much more of like a mud fight than it's been over there.
yeah. I think just to tease it, I think Duane had a great comparison of this Mariners team
Hmm.
when we talked to him. I think more this. I think from a beat writer point of view now, I'm starting to think of like end of a long season, how nice it would be just to do Seattle, Pasadena back and forth for like a week. So happy for all those people if that's where this ends up, as opposed to like LA, Toronto back and
Yeah,
forth.
that's fair.
That's a little rough. I imagine there's not a lot of direct flights from Milwaukee to Toronto, but yeah, they've caught fire. So it is the old, it's a good reminder. And the Giants, they have felt this way a few times, including Blake Snell's year when Farhan said we have the best pitching staff potentially in baseball. Let's go for it. You catch fire and you get some good pitching going in October and some timely hitting and a couple randos just like catch fire at the plate for a couple weeks. You're in pretty good shape.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosman obviously over there on the Blue Jays. Game one, he pitched great, got pulled a little early, I thought. I think he ended up with
Yeah.
two earned runs. But it seems like it's just going to be Mariners all the way over there.
Yeah. We're
Of
again,
course, there is a game that it currently to you and I does not exist.
yeah.
Schrodinger's game is in the air. So
Yeah.
the people listening to this could be just laughing as the Brewers win 10-2 Wednesday night.
But they shut down Rogers Center for 2 days and yeah, we'll
Yes.
see. These series, the two teams that went on the road and just play that way. It was like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
we can kind of predict this.
All right, we have some mailbag questions to get to before we get to Duane Kuiper. Let's start out with a question from Allison. Allison says, and this is a very timely question, I think makes sense for a lot of our listeners. Allison says, how are manager interviews structured? Curious mainly about the Giants' approach currently, but also how are they handled in general? How many rounds and how many stakeholders interview the candidate? How do they tackle what must be a significant breadth of topics across strategy, management, and leadership style?
This is a great question. It's one that I think I'm going to put a pin in, and assuming they hire a manager in the next month, I'm sure Buster will be back on here as he does
Okay.
after every time. So I'll save that for him and maybe ask him about that a little bit. I do know, a lot of this now is Zoom phone calls at first, and then I think when they hired Gabe, I know there was like a final round where guys were flown in to meet with Farhan and Scott, and they were going to have these long lunches, and I think they went to the same place every day for like a week because it was nearby, and so they were having like the same thing. Not the manager, but the executives were having like the same thing all week. But yeah, there is like a final stage where they bring them in and talk to a lot of people, talk to people in ownership, and I don't know where the Giants are at in this current search. But yeah, that's a great question, and I think that's a good question for someone who's done it. So I'm
Yeah.
not allowed in those rooms, but
Okay. All right. Yeah. Once the process is over, we'll get a peek behind the curtain at how it went. But we'll tackle that in a
yeah.
bit, Allison. Next question from Brian. Brian says, will there be any interest in the top tier pitchers or the Japanese pitchers? Or will it be more of a fourth or fifth type starter? By the way, I heard George Kittle's brother-in-law, Cody Ponce, who's playing in Korea, was mentioned in a Baggerly article.
Well, there's one connection. Um,
Yeah, bring him on over.
I I have asked a lot of questions the last 6 weeks as the season was ending about specific guys, and the general answer to everything is if we think that guy can help our pitching staff, he'll be an option. So
Mhm.
I think the Giants are gonna. This is like an old. What year was this? 2019, 2020, when it felt like they were saying cast a wide net constantly.
Yeah,
I think that's where we're at. I think they're going to be looking everywhere and all over the place for pitching, and I think that includes I know that includes overseas. Like they're making these trips not just for to see like the stars there, but to see guys who can be in the bullpen potentially, guys who can be depth starters, guys who have gone overseas and succeeded there. So yeah, anybody with a live arm, I think you can make a realistic connection this offseason. Like you can make the case they need to add like a half dozen guys to this pitching staff.
yeah. So we're going to get that fourth or fifth, and maybe a big star, and maybe Cody Ponce. Who knows?
Yeah, possibly. So it's
Yeah,
here in October when admit it, like the focus has been on the manager search and the calls I've made have been manager related, but this is everything I was hearing in September was just like it is going to be a widespread search for pitching.
yeah. All right. Question from Bronson. Bronson says, I heard the comment you made about the Giants not spending big this offseason with all the current contracts they have. I was curious as to why you think that's the case, as the Dodgers have proven spending money can make money. Attendance at Oracle was the highest it's been in years. There's development going on around the ballpark, and we know when they give fans a reason to show, they will show up. So, what would be holding ownership back from spending more?
Well, I'll say first of all on the development thing, they put that to the side. That has not been, and you can disagree with this if you want, and I have disagreed with it when I've talked to some Giants people, but they kind of put that to the side, and it hasn't been like, as far as I know, and maybe this has changed over the course of the last 6 months, but a year ago, 2 years ago, when all that was going up, it was not kind of the initial cash cow that they expected,
Mm-hmm.
in part because this thing's going up during COVID and San
Yeah.
Francisco shut down maybe more than any city in the country.
Let's open up some high rise office
Let's sell
buildings.
some real estate and office space in San Francisco right now. Not that, so I would put that, the Giants put that to the side generally when you're talking about, but they still have a ton of money. Attendance was up about 3,500 a game, I think, this year. Season ticket renewals are in a very good place for next year. They're very excited about that. So yes, they do. Just to generally answer this question of why you think this is the case, I think you and I go back to just because this is what we have seen. and covered for the last, I mean, for me, like 12, 13 years. I don't like this has generally been who they are. I mean, they're a team that has gone out of their way at times to dip under the tax. They generally don't pay the tax. They did for a while. They didn't love doing it. It's part of the reason there were so many changes made and Farhan was brought in and they did things that way. Um, they've been in on big guys, but not like the Mets or the Dodgers or the Yankees have. Like
Mhm.
they pick, right? It's like we can get the one guy. It's Judge, or it's not Judge. It's going to be Correa. And I think Devers has taken most of that salary slot. Now, Buster has shown an ability to convince ownership, of which he is part of, to spend more than maybe people thought, and to be more aggressive at times than people thought. But I go back to just my experiences with them over the last few years, is that they will spend, but not like top five level. So that's kind of where I come from on this. And maybe they'll prove us wrong, but I think we need to be proven wrong. Otherwise, I think it's fair to assume that like, you and I just kind of where we dismiss like Kyle Tucker. It's like, well, yeah, they just signed Chapman and Lee and Adames and Devers, and they need a bunch of pitching. Like we just don't see them signing someone for 350, 400 million. Maybe they'll
Yeah.
shock us, but we just don't see that given what we've covered.
Also, it's really easy to say, like, as the Dodgers have proven, you got to spend money to make money. They're in one of the most currently unique situations
Yeah.
I can think of in Major League Sports, maybe other than what happened with the Warriors, where they just struck gold simultaneously all at once and now have blank checks. They're a fashion brand as much as they are a baseball team
Yeah.
at this point, and they can do anything.
And they're
And they're
paying
in
their
LA.
best player nothing. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's, and unfortunately, I think owners would probably, and not just Giants, any owner would probably counter this question with, well, who are they playing? They're playing Milwaukee. Who's on the other side? Seattle. Toronto has
Hmm.
been a big spender at times, but not like crazy. So they're not playing the Yankees. They're not playing the Mets. They're not playing the Cubs. Like, yeah. So I think that would be the counter to this is,
Yeah. Of course, they did spend money. They have some of the highest paid contracts in franchise history right now. And as Bronson pointed out,
yeah,
attendance is there. So yeah, I'm happy with what is being spent right now. And you look at like the Chapman deal, you look at how much Devers is making, and it does feel like the Giants are up there with the big dogs in spending.
I think they've committed a lot more the last couple of years, but I just would never put them in that next tier until I see it. And
Yeah.
I'm open to being proven wrong, but I think they've been at a general level for the last really for a while. So
Mhm.
there's been a general level they're comfortable with.
Before we move on to Duane Kuiper joining us here on Giants Talk, I did get a few responses from Giants Talk listeners about their thoughts on the Manfred runner. And I would say it's pretty split 50-50 on how people appreciate this rule change. Dylan says if a rule is removed for the playoffs, it shows that rule is bogus. Doug says, I don't have the energy to stay up late anymore, so I'll take anything that stops a game from going too late. Jess says extra innings is so exciting. Who wants less of it? Richard simply says, put me down as anti Pavlovic runner. Corey says they should do a normal extra inning or two before adding the runner at second. And Gregory says 90% of you people who say you're staying up to watch extra innings on a random regular season weeknight are lying.
I promise I don't have a burner called Gregory, but I 100% agree with Gregory. So I don't let I've been at the ballpark. I know ratings.
Yeah.
I just know the truth. Like people wake up the next day and see that a game went 17 innings and they're like, "Oh, that's cool." Nobody's actually left there at the end of the night.
I mean, I can't deny that at all. That is literally what I do,
You have
but it is still cool.
you have admitted you go
But
to sleep.
you have to be there working it.
Yes. It is not I don't mind those a couple times a year, like an extra one. Somebody who's and we've talked about this, like we would do the extra innings rule. Even me and my guy Rob, I would do the extra innings rule after the 10th. Like I would let him play one, I'd be
Yeah,
fine
let
with
them go
that.
one.
Yeah, or two if you want. But I'd be fine with that. but I also have no problem with the current system. And I think people just are trying to get engagement.
All right. With that, let's go to Duane Kuiper joining us to talk. We haven't had him on in a while. So to talk Bob Melvin, to talk playoffs, to talk much more. Before we get to that, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. Tariff-free savings are happening right now at Mancini Sleep World. Get 40% off top brand mattresses like Sealy and Beautyrest. Plus, every mattress is backed by their Rest Easy promise. Mancini's makes sure you sleep soundly in every way. That means 365-night comfort guarantee, free next day delivery, plus old mattress removal, and a best price guarantee. Shop sleepworld.com.
All right, Duane Kuiper. It has first time of the offseason, I guess, so it's been a little bit. I want to take you back to the end of the season because I think we have to. You've known Bob for a long time. I know Bob knew for a while that maybe it would be a tough ending for him. Just what was your reaction to that news? And I guess, have you talked to Bob? Or do you have any reaction to this being the end for him on what was a dream job?
I've texted him. I haven't actually spoke to him. And in some ways, Alex, I was surprised. In other ways, I guess, I wasn't. If you've been in this business long enough, and you have, and I certainly have, and Cole's been around in it long enough, that, there are certain signs that lead you to believe whether a guy is coming back or not. And I think there were some really quiet signs that Bob was not coming back, not by his choice. And I'm sad to see him go. I like Bob a lot. He was really super good to us. I know that he was good to you guys. When he did his press conference every day, I think his intention is he was always going to give you guys something. And he certainly gave us everything. We knew more than we should have known just because, our relationship with him, and that goes way, way back. So it'd be interesting to see what he wants to do going forward. He's a baseball guy. Would he take another job? He certainly not. I don't think he ever wants to coach. So, yeah. But you know what? Once the dust settles on this whole thing, I'll give him a call. But I enjoyed the 2 years that he was here. And now, this is a new challenge now for Buster. And I think he may be finding out that it's a really big challenge.
Yeah. Probably the biggest decision he will make is president of baseball operations. What do you think? Bob was kind of the polar opposite of Gabe. And Buster now has a chance to go in one direction or meet in the middle. What would you think he should be looking for in his partner here?
Well, I think it's somebody that that obviously he has to be able to communicate with. And I think that he and Bob, did a good job of communicating. And I really think he wants someone tough. I think he wants someone that's going to call a player out if a player makes a mistake. Maybe not the minute after the guy makes a mistake, but at some point. And I think he wants to see more work, whether it's, in the video room, whether it's figuring out how to pitch a team, whether it's playing balls off the wall. If you're having trouble doing, I think he wants to see a lot of that. And are there guys out there that are going to do that? Well, it's also a matter of what kind of coaching staff are you going to have. And the manager usually gets a chance to pick a couple of his coaches, but Buster and Zach and that group, they're going to have to come up with a coaching staff that they like, and that's going to work really, really hard.
You've been around the league long enough that I have to imagine there's very few candidate names that have been thrown around that you're not familiar with. Of the names that have been going around the media, or even guys you've just thought of personally, do any stand out?
Well, look, we've heard so much about Nick Hundley that, my impression of that is if all of the stuff that we've read about is true, and he really wanted the job, we would already have had some type of a press conference. So, and he still may be thinking about it. He and his family may be thinking about it. But, but after that, I mean, a lot of the guys that have been mentioned, I've never met. And, but, in the research and what you hear and you talk to other people, there's some pretty good names on the list. But like I said, and Alex agreed, this is going to be a really, really tough decision for Buster, because you're not just acquiring a player for a year. You're going to have to sign a manager for at least 3. Most now won't sign for 2. So it's a big, 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 big decision.
I think when I interviewed you for my book, you talked about how you went to Scottsdale and you were ready to be a coach. Was that an option for you after you were done, before you became a broadcaster? Or did you ever think you'd be a coach or a manager?
Well, I mean, I'll make this story as short as I can. I went to spring training every year so that would have been 1985. So I went to spring training for 14 years in a row to Arizona. And now I've been released by the Giants. I'm out of the game, and I'm not going to go to Arizona, and I'm newly married. And I'm thinking, I got to figure out a way to at least go. So I went to the Giants farm director, or the Indians farm director, and I said, can I go and be a minor league coach just for spring? And they're like, absolutely. So there I was with 140 minor leaguers. I dressed every day like a coach, acted like a coach. And then one day, one of the AAA managers said, do you remember Jay Bell with the Pirates? And eventually with the Diamondbacks. Well, he was a young player on those minor league teams. And they said, I want you to work with Jay Bell and turn in the double play. Got it. And I got to the park early to work with Jay Bell, and I knew how to turn the double play. I just didn't know how to teach it. So I told Jay Bell we'd have to come back and do it tomorrow. So I went home and I wrote everything down. And I realized that I wasn't going to be any good at this. And about 4 days later, Corey Bush called and said, hey, we're going to start this thing called Giants Vision. Are you interested? And I was like, I want to marry you, Corey, right here on the spot. So anyway, I did get a chance to coach a little bit, but it really wasn't for me.
Pivoting to playoff talk, obviously you have Wisconsin roots. Milwaukee Brewers are currently facing off against the Dodgers. As a Wisconsinite, how much Brewers pride do you have? Because I know your team wasn't the Brewers. It was the Milwaukee Braves, who obviously moved since then.
Well, you become a big fan of the team that's eventually going to face the Dodgers. And look, when it's all said and done and my team is out and you still got local roots in Milwaukee, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely pulling for the Brewers. I mean, I went through the Giants to get tickets for my sister and her family for the games in Milwaukee, the playoff game, of which you should see the text I got from her about the 4th inning of the game yesterday. Is like, boy, is this a boring game. God, this really stinks, Well, that's what great pitchers can do. They can make a game really boring. I do. But I will tell you this, Cole. Yeah. I mean, I think the Brewers are done. I mean, I think the Dodgers are going to go to the World Series. But this Seattle team reminds me a lot of those Giants teams that won the World Championships. There's just something about them. There's some grit about them that makes me think that they're going to go and that they're going to have a shot at playing the Dodgers tough.
Well, you're obviously watching all the games like a hawk, whether it's Mariners, Brewers, or anyone else. Would you have any favorite moments from this postseason so far?
Yeah, I do have a favorite moment. And I don't even mean to throw this guy under the bus because he really did do a good job. So I'm in my car leaving the grandkids' house, and I've only got a 15-minute drive to my place. and this weird play happens where there's a double play with the bases loaded on a ball hit off the wall, right? So I'm in my car and I'm listening, and it's Boog Jambi, friend of mine, right? And he's making the call on ESPN, and literally I have no idea what the heck is going on, and neither does he. So my first thought was, God, am I glad that I'm not doing this game on the radio, because this is a disaster call.
Those are the moments you do not want to activate.
I want nothing to do with this play at all. So then I couldn't wait to get home to actually see it. And it turned out that Boog did a good job. And on TV, as an announcer, you don't have to be that specific immediately, because people are actually watching what's going on. So I thought that was a cool moment. But, right now I enjoy watching Mariners baseball. I do. And the way they've beat the Blue Jays in these first two games, Alex remembers it. You do too. Giants opened up the second half in Toronto, and it was like the Blue Jays were the varsity and the Giants were the JV team.
Yeah.
They just got manhandled.
Yeah.
So what Seattle has done to the Blue Jays so far in this series is really pretty extraordinary. So I'm interested to see if the Blue Jays can bounce back. I mean, their lineup is good enough where they can do it, but Seattle's been fun to watch. I went back. If you remember, the Giants' home opener was against Seattle.
Yeah,
it's true. I did forget about that.
Yeah, so I went and I got my scorecard from that day, and I wanted to see how much different their lineup is then compared to now. And they had a guy by the name of Luke Raley as their DH. They had a Rowdy Tellez was playing first, and Ryan Bliss was playing second. So you got to give, is it Jerry DePoto? Is he you got to give him credit, because he replaces Rowdy Tellez with Josh Naylor, and he puts Jorge Polanco at second and trades for Eugenio Suarez. Not bad lineup. And that's where they're going right now. And by the way, I just counted it. The Giants used 8 pitchers that day, and they won by scoring 2 in the 11th on a Willie Adames 2-out base hit.
That feels like 3 years ago.
Yeah, those early season games feel like an entirely different season.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, you're right. In a lot of ways, it does seem like that. So anyway.
Alex and I always make a big deal in the podcast about our old friends, Giants players who are now with other teams. When you're watching these games, do you pay closer attention to like Kevin Gausman, Blake Snell, Stephen Vogt even?
I do. And, you end up, and Alex knows this, you have some guys you have a really nice, close relationship with, like we had with Stephen Vogt. Gausman was really a guy that it was a kind of a product of COVID, and then it was when I was doing my chemo. So I really never got to know him, but I met him a number of different times. Great guy, and really wanted to stay in San Francisco. And I
remember us joking on this podcast about how there was like whole rosters of Giants you hadn't met during that window.
Yeah, I mean, it was especially with COVID. I mean, that was literally impossible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you have any kind of relationship at all with a guy, then you're gonna certainly pay attention to what they're doing. But in a lot of ways, you're pulling for them. I want to make one more point, and Alex, maybe you can appreciate this. In that game against the Mariners opening day, listen to who pitched in the middle innings. Rodriguez, gone. Trevino, gone. Duvall, gone. Miller, gone. Rogers, gone. And Walker and Bivens rounded it out. So that's how much the roster changed.
This is why we talk every episode about how they have to rebuild their bullpen. So
gone. Gonna be a whole. All those guys were pretty good.
I know, it was the best bullpen for 2.5-3 months. I'll finish with this. Last year, I think when we talked to you during the playoffs, you went and watched it with Mike, watched the World Series with Mike.
Yeah,
Did
I'll
that
go
bring
back.
too much bad luck, or are you going to do it again?
No, I'll do it again, and I don't care who's in it. I'll do it just for an excuse to drive up there and see him. And I mean, when you go visit Mike, and it's not just me. I mean, it would be you. It could be Cole. They're going to offer you a room. They're going to feed you. They're going to give you all the alcohol you want. They're going to give you a flat screen TV with your own remote. They're going to do everything they can to please you. And I mean, that's kind of just the way the Krukos run. So yeah, I'll go up there and yeah, we'll have a good time. We'll have, you know, I never overstay my welcome. A couple of nights and then come back.
All right.
Nobody hosts like a Kruko.
Yeah, there. I mean, it's hard to even imagine. And they're all like that. I mean, he's got 5 kids. They're all like that, and it gets noisy. Let's put it that way.
We were jealous last year. We'll be jealous again this year. Have a good time, and we'll talk to you at some point after they hire a manager.